On the 6th of July 1944, Barbour Street in Hartford was the place to be as thousands of eager and excited fans made their way to Connecticut for the Ringling brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus. The show was billed as the greatest show on earth, one that would go down in history. Unfortunately, that night did go down in history, but not for the reason expected. Rather than being remembered as a night of amazement and fun, it's now remembered as not only the most infamous circus disaster of all time, but one of the worst disasters in the history of Connecticut. This is the story of the Hartford Circus Disaster. This week's video is sponsored by Wonder. Wonder is an app which uses AI to turn words into digital art. The results can be seriously impressive. I sometimes cover stories, like the story covered today, which are very old, which means there isn't much visual content to go off. So, throughout the video today, I will use pictures from Wonder respectfully to help tell my story. For example, all you have to do is type in an adjective, a subject, and choose an art style, and your image will be created within seconds. You can see the quality of the generated images, such as these on screen, which ended up going viral. Right now, you can click my link in the description box below for a free trial to the premium version, which offers unlimited art, no ads, and 20 more styles to choose from. This means your creativity can be endless, and with the extra styles, you're sure to find something that fits your idea, so I recommend checking that out. Keep an eye out in the video for the images that I have used from Wonder, and once again, thank you for sponsoring today's video. Let's get on with it. Our story begins in the early 20th century, which, for the circus, were its golden years. If the circus was coming to town, the community would be full to the brim with excitement and joy. A typical circus performed under a massive canvas tent known as a big top, as it made its way from town to town. At the time, the most famous travelling circus was the Ringling brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus, the largest circus in the country. Founded in 1919, the Ringling Brothers Circus took America by storm and rapidly became the most exciting and prospering circus in the world. At its max, the big top could fit in 9,000 spectators. However, leading up to the event, the circus was struggling. Due to World War II, the circus had less staff and equipment, and on August 4th, 1944, a fire broke out leading to the death of some of their animals. However, this did not affect their attendance due to the people wanting to forget their anxieties and worries about the war that was going on. The day before the incident, their trains to Hartford were late, which meant they had missed their Wednesday show. Apparently in circus tradition, this was bad luck, so the circus staff were on guard. On Thursday the 5th, 1944, it was estimated that anywhere between 6,000 and 8,000 excited members of the public made their way to the show, the majority of these being women and children, because men were at war. The show started, and everything was going according to plan. The animal act had just finished, and up next were the Flying Walenders, who were ready to perform their high wire act. It was now 2:40 p.m, and the Flying Walenders had just started their act when somebody yelled, "Fire." Police on the scene noticed a small fire above the heads of the people sat in the southwest bleachers. The police urged them to stay calm and quietly asked them to leave. At this point, the circus band leader had noticed the flames and began to play the ballad, "The Stars and the Stripes Forever," to warn the circus performers that something was wrong. One of the police officers, Officer Beckwith, noticed the flames before everyone else and watched the small flame for about half a minute move towards the roof of the tent. He was hoping that the flame would extinguish itself before the crowd noticed and became worried, but sadly, this didn't happen. Within 4 minutes, the big top was up in flames. The band continued to play until they couldn't, and ushers tried to put out the fire, but it was impossible. As you can imagine, a panic ensued, and the scene was total chaos. The screaming women and children made their break for the exit as the tent went up in flames. Children were trampled on, and some were thrown from the top of the stands to the bottom in hopes that they would escape. The fire burned the tent, which caused it to fall onto the terrified crowd. The scene was truly horrific. In panic, some people would throw chairs, and trample over others to get to safety. Some would jump from up high, knowing that the people below them would break their fall, and others grabbed children, pretending to be their parents in order to get out faster. It took a total of 10 minutes for the whole tent to burn to the ground. At this point, emergency services had already been alerted and raced to the scene, but sadly, they were unable to save some of the people trapped inside. The fire resulted in the deaths of 168 people. After the fire, bodies were sent to the Connecticut State Armory, but because some of them were so badly burned, some were never identified. An investigation was launched, which almost straight away found why the fire burned so quickly. The top of the tent was covered in paraffin wax and gasoline, which was actually a common tactic at the time for waterproofing. But how did the fire itself start? There were many theories on how the fire started, but it was never confirmed. These theories include a faulty motor in the tent that combusted, and even arson. However, most people agreed it was most likely caused by a discarded cigarette. There was a confession in 1950 by 14-year-old Robert Siege, who worked in the lights department at the circus, but he had a history of mental illness and later recanted his confession. He was never charged, but he was however charged for unrelated arson convictions later in life. To his dying day, he claimed that he never set the fire. The circus never accepted responsibility for the fire, but due to failing responsibility in fireproofing the tent, lack of firefighting equipment, staff and exits, 4 employees were convicted of manslaughter. However, they were all later pardoned. By 1954, the circus had settled claims from over 600 victims and families. They paid around $5 million. They made sure that the profit made over the next 10 years would go straight to the victims' families. In the aftermath, new regulations including better fireproofing, more exit routes, upgraded equipment, and a ban of gasoline-diluted paraffin for waterproofing were put into place to minimise the risk of a disaster such as this ever happening again. In order to perform in the future, the circus had to prove to each town that their tent was fireproof. Although horrific, the disaster was seen as a catalyst for fire safety, as regulations and safety checks were vastly improved going forward. In July of 2005, a memorial plaque was erected to memorize the lives lost. On their final circus tour in 2017, to show respect, the Ringling brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus visited Hartford for an emotional farewell. Sadly, due to the poor records, it is speculated that the death toll was much higher than actually recorded. The most famous victim was Little Miss, who wasn't identified until years later. While it's about 75% done with this video, I noticed Fascinating Horror had done this topic as well. He talks more about Little Miss, so I urge anyone to go over to his video and check that out, because I don't want to steal the thunder from his. May all the victims rest in peace, and as always, thank you so much for watching and supporting my channel. Yeah, thank you very much.